you guys thinking, man? Griff? Oh, you and Sam probably chatting for a little bit there.
Yeah, we were.
You guys heard about the high school canceling football season? Postponing it, I should say. I shouldn't say canceling, but postponing it here. Obviously that's a different thing. Sam had a pretty good point. He talked about earlier today with it. They started for a week and then they stopped after a week. So, there's some rules and regulations. There's speculation of why they did that and why they didn't do that. Why they chose to do that and make it
Yeah, you want
hurt
to talk
hurt the
that,
kids
Sam?
a little bit there. Another way of hurting the kids and their availability to play. They could have easily left, gone somewhere else, transferred, all that kind of stuff. So, but by them starting practice for a week, it locks them in. So now the kids can't go anywhere to play. They're locked into their high school without having to have to sit out for any extended period of time. So if they were to transfer, they have to sit for a year or whatever. But you never know. Some of those places are different, as far as their rules and regulations. Indiana, Ohio. I don't know if they're the same as Michigan's, but yeah. So a lot of different things here about football. We come on here today just to discuss the situation of football and obviously the decision going down this week of the Big Ten shutting down the season after they formulated a nice schedule for everybody to play and seemed like it was going to work out great, as far as spacing and all that. But I think the football world is still trying to figure it all out, whether it's players, coaches, parents. I think everybody's in the same situation where why would they cancel it after they do all that work to formulate a schedule?
All right.
Mhm.
So here's, I mean, Sam and I were talking about this, and this is where almost all my thoughts on it come from. But when there's a lack of information, you fill in the blanks with what fits your agenda. Like, so for me, I tend to have like a conspiracy theory mind. So, and I, don't trust people easily. So I always think there's some kind of hidden motivation, especially when they're not being transparent with why they made a decision. But you take the Big Ten and they release a schedule, and 6 days later they, well, yeah, they take all that effort to do that. So, um, who's got like a video camera?
What's that?
Is that me?
Did you go down?
No,
Volume?
I'm hearing like background noise.
Yeah, there's a lot of noise.
Oh,
Yeah, I
fine.
don't think I have anything up.
That's me.
All right.
Yeah, you're probably making a lot of noise.
Yeah. All right. So,
Hang on a minute. I'll kick it down a little bit here. Sorry, Dennis. Hi, boys.
all right. So there's a ton of people involved. Now, here's my thing. Like, okay, so me being a kind of a conspiracy theory guy, I always think like, okay, you didn't tell me why you did it. So now I'm going to fill in the blanks. I'm going to try to guess why you did it. Um,
Sure.
Kind of the same thing with what you guys were talking about with, the high school, why you practice for a week. It's so
Right.
people can't transfer. Now,
Mhm.
I think that's why the ACC and the SEC. I mean, I mean, some schools draw nationally, but the vast majority of the ACC and the SEC draw from the same pool.
Sure.
They don't want those guys going next door. So they're going to practice as much as they possibly can. I bet you if you tracked like when these schools start, because for you, Sam, you were saying like it start like the academic you've participated. You can't transfer once and participate at the new school once you start practice.
Yeah.
Right.
Once you
So,
it's literally even if you've had one drill, right?
and so I always heard about that. Like say like a few years ago when they were talking, like there was one of the guys in Alabama. They didn't want him to transfer, and this is before like Jalen Hurts and uh, Tagovailoa, but they didn't want him to transfer, so they let it be like a bad. I think it was Jalen Hurts when he got the job as a freshman, but they didn't want the incumbent to get a maybe it wasn't Mac Jones before that. Anyway, whoever it was,
Yeah.
They got through fall camp, but school hadn't started, and the speculation is they didn't want to name a starter until school started because they wanted to keep that guy as a backup.
Mhm.
So they can practice. It's when school starts. So I bet you if you look at SEC and ACC, if they do announce something, it's going to be after school starts. Now, at the same time, it might be that they're just more football mad than the Big Ten and the ACC and the Pac-12.
Well, I think that definitely is a
Yeah.
So here I have.
SEC is, but you think about some of the ACC teams that are like, well, we'd rather sit out. Yeah. Virginia is some of the teams that maybe aren't there all the time battling it out, like Clemson or Alabama or Auburn, Georgia. Those guys are always battling it out for the title. These other teams are probably thinking, well, why do we want to sit there? We should just sit out. Can you have half your league sit out and not? You got to all be in or all be out.
Right. No, and you saw that with Ohio State a little bit, where their players refused to join the little organized, we want to play or whatever it was,
right.
the safe, whatever the hashtag of the moment was,
Mhm.
with the rest of the Big Ten.
Yeah.
But to go back to your original question, Pat, or your query about the 6 days, and I think it's the president's got involved, and they made the
Yeah.
decision. Now there's always okay. So remember when a handful of years ago when all the realignment talk was happening, and all the realignment talk was always about the Big Ten, it being more academic than most athletic conferences. And they had that AAU, so Association of American Universities,
Okay.
and that's how they get their academic like accreditation. And it's like that's one of the best ones. That's one of the best organizations that accredit universities for their academics. So basically, if you don't have any accreditation, your degree is worthless. So the Big Ten has 13 of 14 schools with the AAU, this top line, and that's like University of Chicago, Johns Hopkins, Harvard, Yale, all the biggies are accredited by the AAU. Nebraska is the only one that isn't. Um, and they were when they were admitted. They got dropped, so their standards dropped after they were admitted to the big.
After they admitted them.
Yeah. So out of the 12 teams in the Pac-12, 9 of them are in the AAU. Okay.
Who's not?
Arizona State, maybe Oregon, and Washington State. I think that's what it is. Let me actually, I think I might have it up here. Let me look it up. There's a little graph. Yeah, it's Washington State, Oregon State, and Arizona State.
Oh.
So your state schools.
Not your main guys.
Sorry, Sparty fans, but yeah, that's how that works. But
Accreditation.
yeah. So, but I mean, they're accredited. They're just not through the AAU, which is like the Lamborghini of of that.
Yeah.
So anyway, the other 3 Power 5 conferences have a total of like 11. So out of their 45 schools or whatever it is, only 11. So you're talking, 85% of the Pac-10 and Big Ten are part of this. So the whole point is that it's these two conferences are way more interested in being a organization of academic who also do athletic than they are the other way around. So then you can also see a map. I wish I could share my screen in this format, but I can't. But, if you imagine a map where the football mad schools are highlighted in green, and then semi-mad schools are in red, and football is a secondary thought, are in like gray.
Yeah.
If you can picture that, and now picture the schools that are the states that are allowing college Division I football to happen. It's almost identical, at least how I picture the football mad schools. It's the southeast. It's
Oh, yeah.
Texas,
Yeah.
Florida, up through the Mason-Dixon line.
Sure.
That's green. Everything else is red and black.
Yeah.
So again, going with conspiracy theories or filling in the holes because we don't have the information. And again, we don't have the information not only why they made the decisions. We don't have the information. Nobody has the information on what this does to us long term.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
Nobody knows exactly how to control it.
No.
So again, we fill in the blanks.
Mm-hmm.
Well, you heard the other day, they interviewed Urban Meyer on ESPN, on Big Ten Network, I'm sorry. And they asked him point blank, what do you think about spring football? And he came out right away, no hesitation. No way, no way he plays spring football. No chance of the boys being able to recoup and play again in the fall, uh, and have two football seasons in one calendar year or something like that.
Well, it might impact. I mean, it might impact both seasons, right? I mean, you go to spring, you're probably going to have to obviously have a shortened season, and then you probably, due to that impact in the fall, that following fall season will probably have to be shortened somewhat, right? Because you can't.
Yeah.
Both would be impacted. They both have to be shorter seasons.
Yeah.
Because of some of those reasons. But
that was instantaneous right away when the first decision came out that it was being shut down. So they went to him for an interview, and the next thing you know, he's right away, no chance, spring ball, blah, blah, blah. But then a day later or two, Purdue's head coach comes up with a scenario that, has a January start time, February,
right.
play till March or whatever, just similar to the high school one there. But
I think what it comes down to is, even the decision here in Michigan that was made, I honestly prefer to be totally honest, because I think because of everything going on right now, and you can have your opinions whether it's highly politicized or not, which it probably is, but at least what I was fearful of was, we started practice. I was fearful of them announcing, okay, we're going to cancel the first two games, but you guys can keep practicing, and then after those first two games, okay, you can play. So you play one, maybe two games, and then a week later, you're down again. So I think the stop-start scenario was bad, and that could happen in college, even for the schools that decide they're still going to play. To me, if you push it off into the spring, you have not a guaranteed chance, but at least a better chance of having a continuous, although maybe shortened, full season. Where hopefully by that point you won't be into this stop-start scenario. So to me, it's better from that standpoint, because I think the chances of having a continuous, full, although shortened season is better than if you try to do it now with just everything that's going on. With the numbers games or with the data being what this and that, like Griff's saying, there's so many agendas out there. You don't know what data to believe or not believe. So,
right. Yeah, that's the start-stop is bad.
Yeah.
For everybody, and you try to, how does it, what's the best way to, if you want to change the whole calendar year for football or sports in general, to get out of what it was normally, do you bump football to, January, February, starting then or whatever, or do you try to do it where you just shut it down completely and let's just try again next August to fire it back up again in the normal football season, something like that.
So then we get into a, like, I mean, should we be trying to do this? I mean, and that's the hardest part because I mean, reason us three are doing this, like this podcast, is because we love sports. So we
Right.
want to see sports, particularly for me anyway, college football. I mean, I want to see it happen, but I don't want to see any. I mean, I don't want to. I want this to happen and then go away, and we never hear about it again.
Right.
I don't want to hear 15 years from now that people have, heart disease and stuff because, they played football.
Mm.
And but at the same time, I mean, God, I mean, I love college football. I so much want to watch it in a few weeks.
Yeah.
And that's the hard part. And they're like, again, the Pat, who was okay. So let me start over. Everybody's towing the line. So okay, so tough decision, an easy decision is an easy decision. This is not one of them. Okay, easy decisions everybody makes every day. Um, I got to go to the bathroom. I can either walk to the bathroom or I can pee my pants. Well, I walk to the bathroom. Good,
Right.
easy. That's 100%.
Easy decision.
100% to zero victory there. Okay. But whether to play, that might be a 52-48, and it varies every single day. Okay. Now, new information shows up, and it might vary a little bit. And now we're leaning to play. Now we're leaning not to play. The leaning, that phrase has been in our vernacular for probably centuries. All right. I'm leaning this way. Okay. So the weird thing about it, everybody is deciding, everybody's leaning, and all it is, we're right near 50%. They're leaning pro, they're leaning con. Okay. Big Ten and Pac 12 announced they're not doing it. All of a sudden, that 52-48 decision for people from like the big, from the other Power Five conferences, ACC, Big 12, SEC, all of a sudden they go to like 90-10 that they want to play.
Mm-hmm.
It's almost like battle lines were drawn. Like, oh, you're going to decide. Well, we're going to decide now the other way. And it's weird because, they like. I think the commissioner of the SEC came out that next morning and said, "I'm eager to learn the information that they have that they base their decision on."
Yeah.
Because that's just throwing it out there, going, "You guys have information. You guys made a decision based on information nobody else is privy to, apparently. Otherwise, I'm saying you made the wrong decision."
Yeah.
So and they didn't respond to it.
Hmm.
So then you get Dabo Sweeney coming out saying, "Hey, we don't need them to decide a national championship. We rarely do."
Right. Right.
I mean, that's just throwing daggers.
Right.
So and again, so everyone's towing the line of, "Hey, we're leaning this way," and all of a sudden they're like, "Okay, screw you, we're playing."
Mm-hmm.
And it's just interesting because are they? It sounds emotional to me. And it
Oh
could,
yeah.
again, the presidents who decide not to play, it might be emotional. Them saying, I mean, most presidents in the Big Ten, I mean, you always heard it around Michigan with like Mary Sue Coleman and that they tolerated sports,
Mm-hmm.
Sure.
and they don't want headaches. Nobody running that big of an organization wants headaches, and sports is a headache to them.
Oh,
They
yeah.
don't want them unionizing. They don't want them organizing. They don't want any long-term effects of something where they don't know what the long-term effects are. They don't want 15 years from now these kids coming back to them and going, "Look, I can barely breathe. It's because I played this sport for you."
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And for what reason? And we haven't even talked about money yet.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. I mean, that's where you get the political pressure on that president that said he's making phone calls and they're like, yeah, you should probably sit. You should probably vote no, vote down on this. His contact people that he's inquiring in of what do I want to do? What kind of decision which way should we go, left or right? And I think there's a lot of pressure on that isn't even discussed. It just comes down as being, they had a meeting and 12-2 was the vote, and all the speculation that came out all early last week was, 12-2. Oh no, they didn't vote. No, they did vote. All the different things that came out through the media, But there's a lot of pressure there. I think, and they say, oh, it's not, who's making the decision? The ADs? No, it's the president of the university and all the trustees and all the other people that he probably had to
Right.
contact and say, what are we going to do? The board, the board of directors have to make. So everybody says, oh, it's the president's decision. Well, I think there was some contacts and phone calls and late night discussions. I'm sure that they were, whether it's video like this or whatever, then they were trying to decide what is the best scenario. And if you get a lot of people who have different opinions, or well, if I'm going to get voted in, if I want to stay on this as a board member, who am I talking to? So is it a trickle down effect? Kind of a situation where you're running that just to get that answer that says, oh, we're shutting it down. I'm sure there was a lot of discussions made, just as we are discussing it.
Yeah, no, it's a good point with the board of trustees, because we always hear about. I mean, because again, we're sports fans. We rarely hear from the president.
No,
Um,
what the one guy say?
the ultimate authority that we hear from is the athletic director. But the athletic director reports to the president,
Sure.
And to the board of trustees. Look how much influence that Joel Ferguson has at Michigan State.
Sure.
I mean, he manipulating things from behind the scenes for a decade.
Yeah.
And I mean, like picking, like protecting people, like I mean, probably more than a decade.
Mm-hmm.
Helping pick coaches and all this different stuff. I mean, these guys report to them. The president's the ultimate authority there,
Yeah.
along with the board of trustees, like you said. That's a great point. Again, what kind of pressure are they getting? Additionally, like just our overall society
Yeah.
made decisions. We've made decisions based on money for a century, since World War II, really, say, if you want to go with that. So for 70 years, we're consumer driven. We are trying to make as much money as possible. Look at the TV deals. You think everybody likes that? We went from 2.5 hour games to 3.5 hour games. Like, no, we get 55 million a year for doing that. That pays for a rowing stadium.
Advertising.
That pays for Michigan's. God, they have something on Belleville Lake for crew.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, look on their website. It's amazing.
Look at what they pay.
Oxford. So
look what they pay for Super Bowl advertising.
Right.
Per 30 seconds or whatever it is, So you look at all that money that's out there, and obviously it's the Super Bowl, but just in the day-to-day, Saturday to Saturday games, Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday, Monday, you're talking 5 days right there, right?
Right.
It's all money added up.
No, and that's the thing. I mean, a capitalist society, we are driven by money. We've rarely had anything like this where they've had to make a decision that might not include how much money they make, and they might not know how to do it. I mean, even look at ADs again. Most of what an AD is judged by is how much. The main thing is probably who they hire as head coaches for their money-driven sports. Nobody cares if they win a volleyball national championship or anything, but they do care about the money sports.
Mm-hmm.
You hire your football, basketball, hockey coach.
Yeah.
In some areas, your women's basketball coach. But that's the one thing. The other thing is how many donations can they gather up? How much money are they getting alumni to donate?
Yeah, how much are they losing now? Because everybody hasn't, they're not donating their money now because there's no football. So it's like,
right.
The university's taking a hit.
We all got the email that we could apply our seat license fee turn it into a one-time donation, right? They're
Which is
pleading,
nice to offer that.
They're pleading for people to say,
$75 a person.
Don't. I mean, you can get a refund if you want, or you can apply it to next season. But hey, we're going to be hurting from a budgetary standpoint. It'd be great if you guys could consider, turning it into a one-time donation.
Was that $75? $75 a seat. $75 a seat.
Yeah, the seat license fee, depending on where you're sitting, right, goes up.
100 times 110,000, $75.
Well, it's not, because I think
Right.
it's not 100% season ticket holders, but
Sure.
whatever the number is, right, 30, 40,000 season ticket holders, and
Right.
No, and that's the thing. I'm okay. So money. Let's explore that a little bit. Some of the first thing, even before they canceled the Big Ten, you heard Wisconsin coming out saying we're going to lose anywhere between 80 and $100 million.
Mhm.
Okay, what does that have to do with anything?
Mhm.
You know what I mean? Like,
Yeah.
that's interesting information, but
Right,
what's your point?
right.
Does that mean you put kids' lives, in danger?
Is that what
Does
the
that mean
kids?
you try to force
That
it
was
in?
kids' life,
You put
80 to
fans'
100?
lives in danger?
I mean,
I mean, what's
yeah, I
the
mean,
point?
you're absolutely right. I mean, what industry, what business, what organization hasn't been affected
Correct.
financially since March? So yeah, it's great to say that, but yeah, we get it. Everybody's been affected.
Right. And then,
Well,
so then you have stuff like, okay, so then you have like, there was something on Twitter, Brett McMurphy. He maybe it was Pete Thamel, one of those guys. They talked to a group of 5 AD, and the group of 5 AD said that they will lose if they play, they will lose $2.1 million. If they don't play, they will lose like $1.4 million.
really?
So they're going to lose no matter
Well,
what. But by
yeah,
playing,
I mean, yeah.
that means you're testing people.
Mhm.
And testing costs money and all that. Like everything you're doing is costing money as opposed to just shutting down.
Well, that was all part of the negotiation that went on to get Major League Baseball restarted, right?
Mm-hmm.
It was the negotiation between the owners and the players union, and they kept trying to figure out what is the right number of games, because the owners are going, if I can't have fans in the stands, I mean, I'm losing money, right? So how many games should we play? It's a big numbers game, right? So
Yeah.
they negotiated that, right? Because
What came to 60 games, whatever, for baseball, or even NBA and NHL coming back and finishing up, there was any real need for them to come back and finish up.
right,
People I forgot about them.
I
And
did
coming
see
out
the
of the backside of this, what are ticket prices going to be coming back out? Are they going to, spike it up to, $150 a ticket now, for a Michigan ticket to help make their money back, down the line?
Well, or if when they come back, say it's limited.
still going to be limited, yeah.
So say it's just 20%. I mean, what if that's an auction? You sit there and
Auction
say, hey,
seat.
yeah, we have 20,000 seats available.
Who wants to pay?
Yeah. I mean, because there's going to be people who are going to want to be there,
Oh yeah.
and they're going to pay way more than face value.
Mm-hmm.
So it might be something where, if you want to go there, it's going to cost you $500. And again, that's the society we live in. I mean,
Part of me
look at
thinks,
the damn Rolling Stones concert.
part of me thinks that even if they did now and said, all right, let's play, how many people you think would go up there and tailgate and go to the game? 40, 50, 50,000?
Yeah, well, and that's going to be the interesting part.
Yeah.
Even if they did it now, because they go right now. A lot of people are going up north or out hanging out. They go to the grocery store. I mean, they're doing things. Obviously you got to sit next to somebody, but I mean, I don't know. I'd be interested to see what that percentage was if people were to, the diehards, the people that really want to go, would have been higher. I mean, I don't know what the number would have been. I never know.
Yeah, there's just so many. There's so many like tentacles to this,
Hmm.
and again, like that, like when you just said that, it made me think of okay, well, I mean, the Michigan, um, I don't know, the crowd tends to be a little older and a little more subdued.
Mm-hmm.
Sure.
Well, and they have a ton of money, but are they going
Compared
to,
to the LS
these older
crowd,
people who are more
the
at
LS.
risk to this thing? are they going to want to risk themselves?
Yeah.
You know, I'm saying they might pay $500 to get in, but maybe they don't want to go there because they're putting themselves in. So maybe that market settles itself back down to, you know, the normal ticket price.
Oh, ticket price.
I don't know. It's just so interesting. Now, another thing, you know, okay, so when they first came out, Big Ten, before they announced the schedule, they announced that they were only going to play in conference.
Yeah.
Okay, now the assumption at that point was that everyone could follow their own protocols. You know, they don't want to play Bowling Green because Bowling Green might come in there all diseased. You know, and sorry, Bowling Green fans, but you know, you're just example I happen to pick. But they come in, and because Bowling Green can't afford to test, like I heard Michigan's testing like every 3 days, or they were until the cancellation.
Yeah.
So they're testing their team every 3 days. Okay. So you assume everybody's doing that, and that's why they are only going to keep it in house in their conference. So, but then you hear the ACC, and the ACC has been a little odd anyway. And you know, I don't know if we're going to get a chance to get into that, but you know, they're the ones who wanted, okay, we'll have one out of conference game, but it's got to be in state, which you know was a blind, not even a blind. It was a pretty obvious effort to keep Georgia, Georgia Tech, Florida, Florida State, Clemson, South Carolina on the schedule.
Sure.
But they're like, oh, like they're just making crap up. Like we'll keep it in state by, by saying that we're trying to be safe. It's just ridiculous. Anyway, so then they're like, okay, we'll keep it in house too. Well, then you come up with like, you know, like earlier in the week you had Syracuse. Syracuse is testing their guys every 2 weeks, which means they've tested them once. You know,
Since they're back, yeah.
since,
Yeah.
since official practice started, they've tested them once. I mean, how can you come up with anything at that point?
Right.
You know, then you get Florida State. Their players are saying, look, they're not being honest with us. We're not being tested as much as they say we're being tested.
Yeah.
And the ACC seems to be just the organization that is just not having any control over this whatsoever.
All right.
You know,
Yeah.
so how safe are their guys?
Yeah. 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 Definitely, there's no guarantee on that, especially if it's not regulated, and it should be same across the board. But
That's why I'm saying
way,
I'm surprised that the NCAA hasn't been a little bit more. I shouldn't say I'm not surprised.
not
The NCAA should be more consistent in stipulating, okay, if you're going to proceed, these are the minimum things you got to do, and that should be consistent across the board.
Right,
Shouldn't be up to individual schools to determine what. There's got to be some minimum requirements. If you want to go above and beyond that, fine. But there should be a minimum set of requirements that's consistent across.
We could do a whole episode on the NCAA leadership.
Yeah, that's why I laughed when I said.
Yeah. I mean, here's the thing. I mean, okay.
Well, like you're saying, Griff, you said here, obviously Big Ten came out and said we're playing conference only. That's it, right? So now it turns into, so the MAC is sitting there going, well, shoot, that means we just got to play in-house, and we only play in front of half-filled stadiums, and we usually go play Florida, Michigan, play the 2 or 3 games against big-time conferences who give us millions of dollars to go play there. Now it's like, why should we bother playing? We're just cancel out the season now, right there in that situation.
Well, they can't, right? Because their TV deal is minimal.
Yeah, TV
right?
deal.
I mean, and because they put them on TV, people don't go to the games anymore.
Right.
I mean,
right.
Even on Tuesday night, you look at here's Toledo, one of the best teams in the conference, and they're playing in front of maybe just a handful, families and friends, and they're the stadium's half full.
Exactly.
Tuesday night.
They get their payday from playing, coming into Michigan or coming into other Big Ten schools, and that's in one game they make more money than their whole season on their TV deal, right?
Yeah, yeah. They play Michigan. They play Michigan, and it pays for like 10 other sports at Central or Eastern or whatever,
Because somebody told me, I think the each school in the MAC, their TV deal only gets them like 800,000 a year or something, or 850,000 or something like that.
Yeah, I think you're right. I think it was less
Drop
than
in a bucket, right? They come into Michigan and play. What do they get? What kind of payday is that? It's millions.
right.
Yeah.
And even the money that I was talking about earlier from that tweet by a national columnist, the difference between playing and not playing is the difference of $700,000. So all of a sudden you get that $1.1 million check that Michigan was going to write Bowling Green, to use them as an example again, and you're suddenly making money.
Yeah.
And you can, like Pat says,
From one game.
Against the golf team and the volleyball team and everything else with that. Now you play twice, like say Eastern does. I mean, they always seem to play, Michigan school, and then they go down south and play Florida or whatever. So they're making say $2.5 million a year. I mean, God, I bet you that's damn near their entire athletic department budget.
It's like you go in there and say, all right, boys, we're going down to Alabama Saturday. I know we're 42-point underdogs, but let's get out there and take one for the team, and this is going to help our university. Try not to get hurt, too dinged up, and get out of there unscathed, and that kind of stuff.
I heard an interview with Lou Holtz one time, and it was coming from the other way, where he's saying like, trying to get his team motivated for like an Eastern Michigan.
Yeah.
And he was like, he was famous for saying, "Oh, these guys are great, and we got to watch out for their speed." And even though they were like 56-point favorites, and he was famous for that stuff. But he said like in house in their meetings, he said, "Yeah, we're going to beat this team." You go, but here's the thing: if you guys don't beat these guys by 45, we're going to struggle the rest of the year. So show me what you got. See it. Show me that you guys can beat these guys by 52 points.
Right. We're not pulling the dogs off until we're up.
Right. Exactly. And
but it's also the game that they want to get guys in, get some extra PT maybe, blah blah blah. But that's just the way it is, and that's when and they get the debate. Or they say, oh, why play that game? Why don't we just see? We'd rather watch Michigan against Clemson, or we'd rather watch somebody. Let's do an interleague game between the fives. Why we got to include the MAC school? All we're doing is helping out the MAC schools and the small in-state schools so that they can survive and have athletics there.
Right.
Is that what it all boils down to? Is that Michigan doesn't need to play Eastern, Central, Western, whatever every year, or Toledo or whatever they bring in, but they're doing it to help in-state schooling and this and that. And you never know. Often you get the upset, like Toledo upset Michigan one year, Central upset Michigan State a couple years in a row. So you get those upsets. The team loses. Appalachian, Appy State comes into Michigan, so you get that every so often, every 10 years, you get that loss. But for the most part, you do what you can.
All right, so hey, let's go into I normally don't like talking about like what's gonna happen, but I know we're all Michigan fans, as well as just general college football fans. But how are you gonna like? What if nothing happens and they play a full season, and the Big Ten sits it out the entire time? How are you gonna feel when it gets to be mid-October, and we're seeing like Oklahoma versus Texas, in the Red River shootout or whatever?
Maybe.
Are we going to sit there and go, damn, what the hell's going on?
Oh, yeah.
What are those players going to be like? Are those players going to sit there and be silent?
Yeah. The ones that are sitting out?
Yeah.
Yeah. If it flies and all three of those divisions play a slate of games, and at the end, they're whatever they do at the end of the season, whether it's play a national title game or not, I don't know.
Yeah, I don't know.
How does it make the Pac-12 and the Big Ten look or feel? And that's
right.
Some of the guys now. And some of the guys have even it's gone to a recruiting situation now this week.
Yeah.
The guys are like, oh, I changed my mind. I've taken back my commitment. I'm not going to one of the Big Ten schools or something. I've already opened up my recruitment now, and Oklahoma, Texas, and all those guys are on my list now. So now they're in that situation where is it going to cost them recruit wise, you know, from that standpoint down
It's
the
funny.
road.
I think if that happens, and it'll be just the again another example of the only thing that's consistent right now is inconsistency. So
Okay.
it would fit perfectly.
Yeah.
it would.
Well, Michigan's in the hunt for this Donovan Edwards, right? They're the big running back, one of the top
Yeah.
running backs in the country, West Bloomfield kid, and they're highly, on him to sign with Michigan. Well, also on his list is Oklahoma and Georgia, and so now, he wants to go watch a game, or whatever. He was going to watch them, and he can go watch them play, And there was another guy about with Michigan State. He's him and humming on whether or not he wanted to see what Michigan State had to offer this fall with a new coach. He wanted to see how they approach things and watch games before he made his decision. Well, now he can't, so now he's stuck. So now he's got to make a decision. Just eliminates, and that's what this Donovan Edwards, I think, had said. He goes, "Well, Michigan State was on the radar potentially, but since they're not playing, I can't see how Coach Tucker operates. I can't see how they work their team and how it's set up.
Right.
So I've got to eliminate them right now, and I'm just going to stay with Michigan, Oklahoma, and Georgia. As options."
Definitely put some of those schools or some of those programs in behind the eight ball in terms of that.
Well, and it brings up an interesting point. How are they limiting that, or are they even limiting? Like, okay, so he gets 5 visits.
Yeah,
And I've been hearing all along that visits were
nobody
canceled and everything, but are they going to kick back on and official visits are canceled? Can he go visit himself?
Right.
Because he should be able to as a prospective college student.
Right.
So he happens to go to Georgia on a day they're playing Florida. Well, that's in Jackson. That's a bad example, but say Auburn.
Yeah, or Alabama.
And he gets to see how the coach operates, like you guys were saying, but he also gets to see the pomp and circumstance to a certain extent. The next week he goes and checks out Michigan State and he tours the campus. He sits in the office of the coaches for an hour, and then he goes and hangs out with the players and watches the damn Georgia game.
Yeah. You're down there. You walk into the stadium. You get all the people yelling or whatever, or you get down there for a game time experience and. Whatever it is that they offer. I mean, obviously the fans might not be there, but he may be down there.
Who knows what it's going to be.
But still, you're on the sideline. You get to watch the game. If he hasn't ever been down there yet, some of the guys go. I know he's been to Michigan a few times, just on unofficial visits. But you go on your official visit, obviously you lose out on that game day experience.
Yeah. No, it's
hey guys, I gotta wrap. I gotta wrap right now. I gotta get rolling on a couple things.
All right.
Yeah. Yeah, we can close it. We've been on here for a little bit. We can always discuss it more. I'll bring it back again.
Yeah. It's just interesting stuff. There's a ton.
A lot to talk about.
Yeah, I'm sure it'll be something new. Something new next week or within each day it changes.
Well, every day, right? We'll know more about it.
Yeah, we haven't even touched on the NBA, MLB, or NHL. And what the impact and how that's affected things and stuff like that. So, MI Sports Talk, obviously, we started almost a year ago to today, almost. In August, I think we started about a year ago, 20 some episodes, and who knows? All of a sudden, we've gone through this, and starting in January, February, to lose out on sports. We hadn't had a chance to really talk about a normal sports year, But hopefully, we got the majors coming up here with golf, and we got Indy 500s coming up. I mean, there's some different things. Kentucky Derbies are going to run here in the fall, and some of those kind of things in the fall here coming up. So some different things like that. It's a different kind of sports year for us, obviously, and we started the MI Sports Talk to just talk about. Right now we'd be in the heat of just freaking picking our, college teams and looking at rankings and almost all that kind of stuff, and now this year, because of the circumstances, we are, so crazy.
All right, guys.
All right, Sam. Thank you, buddy.
Good catching up with you. Yeah, we'll know.
Yeah, see you guys.
We'll be in touch, huh? Good
Yeah.
talk, fellas. Look for us online. MI Sports Talk. Thanks, Sam. Griff,
See you, man.
be in touch. Good talk today.